when it became Rotary. So the Paul Harris Fellowship pins are a way to acknowledge members of Rotary who make $1,000 donations to the Rotary Foundation, which supports polio and a number of other very worthwhile endeavors. Jerry is kind enough to do this and has donated a lot of money over the years. And her most recent donation, she wants to gift a Paul Harris +5 level honor to her mother, Jenny.
So there's no finer Rotarian in my life than my mother. I sent this note to the Rotary Foundation. You are and always will be my ideal Rotarian. And that's it.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored. Thank you.
And because Jerry's been so generous with her donation, she's also being honored today with a Paul Harris +6 level pin. So Jerry, if you can come up, I'd like to share that with you.
No, I'm sure. Thank you.
Paul, if you're willing to forego your lunch a few minutes longer, would you be willing to do Happy Dollars for us?
Happy to do Happy Dollars. I'm actually happy to start it off.
Great, thanks.
I will get to you. Actually, before I do that, let me move it over to Susan, because she's very antsy. Here we go.
Yes, I welcome all of you to the elite club of alum of the Wave Makers. All you have to do is paddle on the Dragon Boat Festival. That is the 12th of August. And you will be able to wear one of these t-shirts that was designed by yours truly up there. Anyway, so please see Brian Kosarko. He would like to paddle. It's a lot of fun. Kids can do it. The extended family, please invite them to come. Listeners all here. I've got a paddle, got the seat I've had, and your vest, etc. So you'll all be taken care of as well. The other announcements I have is that our Dragon Dream team just won 2 bronze medals at the national competition in Florida. So we placed 3rd in the 200 meter, we placed 3rd in the 500 meter. So that's national competition.
Thank you. And I have 20 Happy Dollars. First of all, I think I owe from a couple Happy Dollars ago, so that's part of it. It was so wonderful to see many of you. Our Portage Lakes Homes Tour fundraiser took place last week. We had 500 people out on the lakes as a fundraiser for the symphony. It was almost a pseudo Rotary meeting with a number of people who were at the luncheon and out on the boat. So thank you all for your support of that. That was a really fun day. A lot of people don't even know we do it because it sells out so fast. We advertise it for about 3 days, it sells out, we take it down. So if you're interested in next year, let me know. But I'd also like to add, for the rest of my Happy Dollars, our Summer Parks concert series starts this weekend. We'll be at Forest Lodge Parks. The city of Akron provides these free summer concerts from the Akron Symphony to the community. The postcards are on your table with some fantastic artwork, and we'd love to see you there on Sunday night. Thank you. Who else is happy? Oh.
Hi, everybody. So I'm happy. It's we have 2 more weeks of camp left. It's hard to believe, so camp's almost over. But Thursday night's a cookout, so I hope some of them went out. Jenny and Jerry will be there, and we have some other Rotarians coming that aren't here today. So there's still time to come out on a Thursday night this week and next week. So hope to see you, or don't have to be a Thursday night. Please stop out during the week if you have, 30 minutes or so. You're welcome to stop by.
Hey, no, let me have the mic. Can you touch briefly on the grant commitment that the club and the camp have together, what that project entails, or are you not prepared to talk about that?
I don't think we're prepared. Dan's in the working stages with the I Promise Village and what's that going to look like. And then the kids are going to be coming out to camp. They've already come out a couple times this summer, so you don't need to, Rotarians don't need to be there. The counselors are taking care of them. They'll be coming again before summer's over. But then there's going to be a project where we're going to work with the kids and the parents, and that's where we're going to involve the Rotarians. So stay tuned. We'll keep you totally posted on that.
Thank you.
Who else is happy?
Well, I'm happy to see so many new members here today. I'd like our new members to stand, please, and we want to just welcome you. We love having you. We want to make sure you're happy, and for dollars especially. But we have some working with mentors to welcome you and make sure you're involved, or you at least are knowledgeable and can get involved with our business. So I just wanted to thank you for being here.
Anybody else happy today?
I don't think I've got 5 things to say, but very happy. I missed the last couple of weeks due to my youngest, my 12-year-old, was out in Colorado playing in a soccer tournament. So they made it to nationals, and they didn't win. They got top 4 in their under 13 age group. So and then we got to do everything imaginable out there. Wonderful time, but very, very happy to be back. Happy that just in the last 3 weeks, I changed offices to downtown Akron from Fair Lawn, which has been fun, and having access to restaurants. And I was actually, a nice day like today, took a scooter all the way up here and scootering back. So super cool. Yeah, it's great. What else? Yeah, so that's it. That's it. Just happy to be back. Good to see everybody.
A couple of happy dollars. If you haven't heard, we have a new executive director of the All-American Soapbox Derby. He's a young man who is not so young anymore. He was young when he worked for me, and he took a circuitous route back around here. Scott Taylor is his name. He's the new executive director as of August 15th of the All-American Soapbox Derby. So I'm pleased to have Scott back in the community. He definitely should become a Rotarian.
Anybody else? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Paul. I was remiss in not making an acknowledgement last week about this Christmas in July tree. I see that they're only collecting through July 31st, which means, I guess, by next meeting time, it'll be after. I don't know how we can donate, but if anybody's interested, I'm sure the church would take donations this week, either monetarily or there's tags on the tree that detail things they're looking for, and it's to benefit Stewart's Caring Place. Thanks. So, Jerry, if you'd come up and again and introduce our speakers for today. Thank you.
I had to remember to put all the stuff in one folder. Dr. Wes Fair has been with Shelter Care since 1991, serving as the therapist of the Boys Program, Respite House parent, executive director, and now Shelter Care's president. Wes has a BA in psychology, an MA in clinical psychology from Wheaton College, as well as a Ph.D. from the University of Akron in counseling, with an emphasis on marriage and family. His commitment to Shelter Care is based upon his faith and desire to provide leadership to a program that is designed to meet the needs of the young people and families in our community. Jessica Purdy, Director of Development, began her journey at Shelter Care just over 2 years ago as a case manager at Shelter Care's Street Outreach Services program that meets the needs of young adults experiencing homelessness. In the fall of 2022, she transitioned to Shelter Care's Development Department. Jessica has her Bachelor's in Human Development and Family Studies from Kent State University. So Jessica and Wes, welcome to Rotary.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Is it too loud? So usually I'm accused of not speaking loud enough. But my name is Wes Fair, as you heard, and I'm the president of Shelter Care. And just on behalf of Shelter Care, I want to thank the Akron Rotary for inviting us to come here and speak to you, and just to tell you a little bit about what we do at Shelter Care. And we love the Rotary. You guys have been good friends to Shelter Care for many, many years. So we appreciate your commitment to service and to the community. There's a lot of needs, as we know, in Summit County. And hopefully we can tell you about a few of those this afternoon. And we'll be brief, but it's kind of hard to be brief telling you about Shelter Care. Shelter Care has been around for 51 years. We started in 1972. Yet many of our board members refer to Shelter Care as the best kept secret in Summit County, because a lot of people have never heard of us. Just a quick show of hands, how many people have heard of Shelter Care? Good, yeah, that's great. I ask that question sometimes to people, and a lot of people will say, I don't think I know what Shelter Care is. So my role is just to tell you really briefly what we do at Shelter Care. I like to say that Shelter Care, we're a small agency that does big things, because we have 6 programs at Shelter Care. And then after I give you the overview, Jessica's going to come up and highlight one of our programs for you. Yeah, I can hear like a little reverberation. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let me know if it's not. Maybe step back a little bit. Oh, okay. All right. Is that a little bit better, maybe?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, real quickly, so Shelter Care began in 1972. And we didn't have 6 programs back in 1972. We actually had 1 program. And one thing I need to tell you about Shelter Care is Shelter Care was founded by my father. His name was Dave Fair. And back then, my dad was on the staff at the chapel, but he was also working at the Summit County Juvenile Court under Judge Cannell. And Judge Cannell actually asked my dad if he would start a program, because there were many kids coming through the court system that had family problems, and they didn't really belong in detention or in court. They needed help. They needed counseling. They needed a place to stay. So in 1972, we opened our first program, which is called our Shelter Home Program. And that's where we hire a house parent couple to live in a house that we provide for them, and they parent 4 kids. And those kids typically come from either the court or from the Child Welfare Agency, Summit County Children's Services, or maybe a referral from the mental health services in our community, the ADM board. And they stay with us. They live in these houses. They go to school. They get counseling. And oftentimes they stay up to 2 years. It's a long-term program. And it's not unusual for those kids to even stay with us until they graduate high school, and we help them transition into the workforce or even college. And that's the program that started back in 1972, and it's still running today. We have homes throughout Summit County, Cuyahoga Falls, Manchester. We had a house in Jackson Township, Talmadge, just areas like that. Good areas where kids can kind of grow up, be safe, and still get help and attend good schools. So that's the program that started it all. Our next program is called Safe Landing Youth Shelter, and you may have heard of Safe Landing. It's a crisis shelter for youth, so it's not long-term, it's short-term. And Safe Landing is in Akron. It's over on Cyberlink Street, and it holds up to 12 kids, and the average length of stay there is just 1 to 2 weeks. And usually those are kids that are in conflict with their parents. Parents call, say, I'm having trouble with my son or daughter. I just need help. And so we have them come to Safe Landing. They can stay with us, and they have to agree to go through some counseling to work through the crisis. We also take referrals from the Children's Services or from the court at Safe Landing too, because oftentimes when Children's Services is investigating like an abuse or neglect case, sometimes they don't have a place to put those youth. And so they come and stay at Safe Landing until the investigation is over. Or if a youngster is involved in a domestic violence case through the juvenile court, sometimes they're just not a great fit for detention. So they come to Safe Landing instead and stay there. So Safe Landing, we started that in 1978. So it's been around a long time too. And back in our heyday, we used to serve about 700 or 800 kids a year at Safe Landing. Now it's down to more like 300 or 400. We also started a program called Respite Care. And again, it's a home that we hire a couple to live in, and we provide short-term respite for kids that are in family counseling. And there's a lot of stress in the family, and we provide like a 3 to 5 day period of respite each month for those families. And the goal is to keep those struggling families together by providing breaks for them. And it's been very successful. That started in 1990 and it's still running today. The next program that started, there was a need in the county. In 2005, we opened a teen pregnancy shelter. And it's right down the road from our central offices in town, which is called the Highlands Teen Pregnancy Shelter. Houses 5 girls and 5 babies. And, to do residential care in the state of Ohio, you have to be licensed by the state. And our teen pregnancy shelter is the only licensed teen pregnancy shelter in the whole state of Ohio. So if you can imagine, we get referrals from all over the place. But as we speak today, we have 3 girls and 3 babies there. But girls can come at any time during their pregnancy through the delivery of their baby, and they can actually stay up to 3 years at the Highlands. And during that time, again, we provide counseling and case management. We try to teach them parenting skills, help them get connected in the community for good housing, safe housing, and things like that for the young mother and her baby. And then the program that Jess is going to tell us a little bit about is called Street Outreach Services SOS, and that started right around 2008. And that's a program that serves homeless youth in Summit County. And if you probably don't think about what homeless youth are like in our county, we know about homeless adults, we know about the Haven of Rest, but homeless youth are nothing like that. They're not walking the streets of Akron, sleeping underneath a bridge or anything like that. These are kids that are couch hopping, living from one place to another, oftentimes stay up all night. And we opened what we call a drop-in center for street outreach services. It's over on Cagga Falls Avenue. And it's a place where kids can come 6 days a week. They can get a hot meal. We serve hot meals every day. They can take a shower. They can do laundry. They can get internet services. And obviously, we provide counseling and case management. And part of that is we have some grants through HUD and through our state services that we can help them find safe housing, as well as provide monies for just integral parts of everyday living, for food and clothing and things like that. Right now, our SOS program, Jess will tell you more about it, but it's exploding. There are more homeless youth in Summit County than you would think. And then the last program, and we put a brochure on your tables for you, is that it's our newest program. It just started in the last 2 years. It's called our outpatient counseling program. And it just kind of makes sense. We do all this residential treatment care for young people and young adults, but sometimes they need ongoing care and counseling. And so we do outpatient counseling through our central offices in Talmadge. We're right on South Avenue off the Talmadge Circle. So as you can see, we are a small program that does a lot of big things. We're very active in the community. We do a lot. And I'm just grateful that we're able to tell you a little bit about what we do at Shelter Care. We're a private nonprofit treatment program for young people and their families. And we rely on the community to help us. Our funding base is very broad. You can't be around for 51 years without being able to sustain things. But that doesn't mean we don't need your help. So that's a little bit about Shelter Care. And I'm going to turn it over to Jessica Purdy, who is our Director of Development. Jess is going to tell you a little bit about SOS, and then we can certainly answer some more questions too. Yeah.
Can we answer questions after your section now, or wait?
Probably just wait, if that would be okay. Jess and I will come up here and answer. Okay, yeah, for sure. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm excited to be able to speak with you guys today. So I get to share a little bit about street outreach services, and as was mentioned before, that's actually where I got my start at Shelter Care. So just over 2 years ago, I was an outreach case manager there. And when I started shelter care, if you would have asked me what youth homelessness looked like, if it was prevalent, what that looked like in our community, I probably would have told you that it happens and that it's a thing, but I couldn't tell you how many people that affected, anything of how that looked like. But right after I started, they came out with a study that the Summit County Department of Public Health had issued, and it had shown in 2019, 498 young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 were either in emergency housing or had gone through another housing program. And that's just the young adults that actually had received services, not the ones that didn't. And I remember that number it astounded me. I didn't understand that there were so many young adults out there in need. So that's kind of an old number in 2019, and think about that too, it's before COVID, so we've definitely seen an increase as well. But another kind of statistic to help kind of paint that picture is between the school year of 2021 and 2022, in the Akron Public Schools, Project Rise served 1,800 homeless youth through their program. So we're seeing a lot of folks that are experiencing homelessness in our community. So at that point, I was kind of asking myself, I was like, how come I haven't seen these young adults? Where are they? How did I not know that there was this need out there? And kind of as Wes had mentioned, often our young adults are the hidden homeless. So they're bouncing around from couch to couch, just trying to make it through the day. A lot of our young adults, they're just looking, where am I going to get my next meal? Where am I going to be able to have shelter? So they're going from relative to relative, friend to friend, coworker. Sometimes anybody on the street who will just let them into their house. But oftentimes that comes with a lot of dangers and a lot of cost. Sometimes it's not the safest spaces for them to be in. But again, they're just in survival mode, just trying to get through the next day. So street outreach services, kind of as Wes mentioned, so we're a drop-in center that serves 16 to 24-year-olds that are homeless or at risk for homelessness. And currently, right now, we're serving 100 young adults. And what that looks like on kind of a day-to-day basis, so that's 35 different young adults coming to the center monthly, but that's 100 different visits per month. So a lot of our young adults, once they find us, sometimes we're seeing them 3 times a week, 5 times a week, because they can come in anytime during our open hours, get a hot meal, take a hot meal to go, get groceries, case management, clothing, laundry, anything that we can really wrap around those services for. So another question I had when I kind of had started at SOS was what led to our young adults to their situation where they are? And each of our young adults has a very unique story, just as all of us have a unique story. But a lot of the trends that we're seeing are young adults that are coming from the foster care system. So they've emancipated, just don't have a lot of that support. So that's where our Bridges program comes into play. Before they turn 21, we can have more intense case management and financial support with them. Other of our young adults, they've experienced really hard things also coming from their homes. Sometimes they've lost a parent. Sometimes when they're 18, their parents are just like, you have to leave, you have to get out of here, and they have nowhere to go. Other of our young adults are just experiencing generational poverty, trying to find their way out of that, but in that cycle, that can be really hard for them to break. But the one kind of equalizer that we see through all of our young adults is they've experienced some level of trauma. And right now in social services, that lens of trauma-informed care is so crucial, and that's no exception for the young adults that we're seeing. And we see how much that impacts their life, especially as they interact with us. I think that's one thing that always stood out to me was for our young adults, it always took them a really long time to trust us, because some of the experiences that they've had, some of the folks that they have relied on and thought would support them and love them either weren't able to or just didn't. So them coming to us and us being able to provide services, but not only services, but like that emotional support and care too, they didn't exactly know how to deal with that. So it stood out to me the way that the very first time we interacted with somebody to the difference of a couple months later, 3 months later, what that looked like. For example, one story that kind of sticks out to me is right before I was switching over to the development department, there was a young lady that had come into our drop-in center, and she came in with another young lady. They were living in their car, looking for housing, looking for employment, just needed a lot of help. So she was coming in almost daily for many, many weeks, but she would barely say anything to us. Like, we could go through a whole visit, she might say hi, but that was it. And I attributed that to maybe some personality that's just her, but also the kind of the trauma that she's experienced and that struggle to be able to have a conversation with us. So one of my recent visits, I went back to SOS, and I was working at the kitchen table and just having a conversation with one of our young adults. Just normal conversation. We talked about pets. I showed her a picture of my pet. She was really excited about that pet. And I just remembered, I thought I recognized her. When I thought it was that young adult that I had mentioned, but I was like, no, that can't be her, because she's actually talking to me and having a normal conversation. I checked with staff, and that was actually her. And it had taken her about 7 to 8 months to really trust staff and be able to open up. And I was so excited it was her. Like, I was so happy that that had happened. But when our young adults actually get to that point too, I feel like we're able to come alongside them even more. And when our young adults start to learn to trust and trust again, they'll be a little bit more receptive to us helping them fill out a resume. They'll ask us more for help of filling out benefits for food stamps or Medicaid. They'll actually start to talk to us about some of the issues that are going on in their life, and we can offer that emotional support. So much so that some of our young adults consider that staff family. And sometimes it's kind of the only family that they have right now. Some of our young adults right now, we've had a lot of young ladies that have had their little kiddos recently, and we've been able to walk with them through that process of their pregnancy, finding services in the community, and being there for them. There was one young adult specifically that she would come in after appointment, show us her ultrasound pictures, talk about the baby's name. We'd get her connected to other services in the community. And when she had her kiddo, we were one of the first calls that she had made, was to let us know that she had her little one. So 2 of our staff members had gone over that day that she had her little baby and visited her. And then the program director and myself had gone over the next day to be with her. So I got to hold a little 2-day-old, super cute. But as we were there, kind of all of a sudden she just said, well, I guess you are my family. And I kind of looked at her kind of questioning. I'm like, I'm not sure the context of what that is. But she had shared with us that the staff from SOS had been the only ones that had come to see her at the hospital. And that always really stuck with me, the way that the staff at Street Outreach Services, we have such that opportunity to be there for these young adults that are experiencing homelessness, and not only in those physical ways of providing meals and groceries and clothing and rental assistance, but also being there for those emotional support and kind of taking that space that maybe they haven't had in their life, those family members. So thank you so much for listening to us, and we'd love to answer any questions that you have.
Questions?
I had a question about the Highlands teen pregnancy. Do you help them with adoption if they want to give the baby up? Is that part of your program?
Yes.
Okay, and the second comment I had was on the street outreach service. Is that a big crime prevention program? Because people on the street, they're desperate. They'll do all kinds of nasty things unless they have an alternative.
Yeah, I'll answer the Highlands and Jess can answer the street outreach. Yeah, when we started the Highlands back in 2005, we wanted to have an adoption component because the Highlands is specifically for girls who want to deliver their child. And so we don't provide any other kind of counseling other than, what happens after you have the baby. It's parenting skills, training, or adoption. What we found out is that many of the girls that come, they're under the age of 18, that they don't want to give up their baby for adoption. I can probably count just on 2 hands how many adoptions have occurred since 2005. Most of the girls keep their babies.
Yes, and to answer your question about street outreach services, it is definitely a crime prevention program in that, as you said, kind of a lot of our young adults, if they are desperate trying to find a meal, something, maybe they'll try to steal something from a store, but if they can walk into SOS and receive a hot meal, they don't have to do that.
I would imagine because your population is transient, is there a way to track? So track sounds bad, that sounds like you keep tabs.
No.
But if people come and go, how do you measure success, or is there a follow-up? I mean, if somebody comes in to get a meal and a shower, whatever, and they're in distress, they leave, is that it? Or is there some longer-term way of communicating or follow-up or tracking metrics and success rates and things like that? Thanks.
Yeah. So every time we meet a new young adult, they do fill out a form with us. So we'll get their information, and that includes contact information. So as you said, some of our young adults, we will see them once. They'll come in, they'll receive services, and then they leave. And then we don't know what happens after that. We can try contacting using the contact information they give us. However, we do see most of our young adults will come back to us. So the way that we measure success, I mean, we do keep numbers. We keep numbers of the number of hot meals, the number of visits that we have, but just the growth of that young adult. So if there's young adults that we're seeing, if they get a job, or if we're seeing them with their kiddos, if they get permanent housing, just those milestones in their life, or just that emotional maturity that's growing. So that's usually how we mark that success. And if we can reach out to them with the contact information that they have, we will.
Just a question around, do you work with the schools to get referrals directly? I know a colleague of mine had kind of exactly as you described, a boy that kind of went from couch to couch to couch. A group of friends and played baseball and kind of went around, just whoever would take them in, and they tried working with the parents, and the parents were not open to adoption or what was best for the child. And I imagine that's probably a real tough point to get through the parents, to kind of get through to them that this option is better for the child than whatever unstable home situation they have. So yeah, just curious how you work with the schools to find a solution. And this is great. I had no idea that you were there, so I didn't have any options to give my colleagues. So this is really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I know Jess can talk about the school system in Project Rise, but just over the years, we've had a really good relationship, especially with Akron Public Schools, because of our crisis shelter, Safe Landing, which is in Akron. Oftentimes, schools will call and they'll say, hey, there's something not right about what's going on with this child in my classroom. What do we do about that? And oftentimes, we can either invite them to, to give Safe Landing's information to them, or give some county children's services a call, make a referral, and then they'll send those youth to us. But the school systems in Akron, especially the middle schools and the high schools, all know about Safe Landing because they've used us for many, many years. In terms of Project Rise and the school systems working with our street outreach program, I can let Jess talk about that.
And some of our outreach workers, they do Safe Landing presentations within the schools. So there are some classes that the kids are directly hearing about our services too. But I would say especially in kind of the last 2 years, we've had a lot more connections with some of the schools. We've been reaching out to them, reaching out to the counselors, just making sure that they have our information, just so we can give referrals back. And also a newer thing that we're doing is we're partnering with Stark State. So we'll do a table up there. So we'll have the college students that anyone who could use our services could come. And we've started to see some referrals back and forth with that as well.
Well, I think a lot of the Rotarians might be pleased to hear that one of the scholarships we gave away a couple of years ago was a student that actually was homeless. And she ended up actually was not able to be eligible for a lot of services because she ended up leaving because she had testified against her mother who was abusing the kids. And she actually, finally the other kids actually also went through all of that, but she basically was couch surfing for a long period of time. And actually got one of those scholarships and got a very nice scholarship for another outside school. And so there is that
One of the questions that I had, you talked about the drop-in center. You said basically 18 to 24, but it's just younger than 18. There's some challenges for that. And then the other question, one of the questions I have, you guys ended up working in continuing care as part of the overall process. And the last one that I was experienced was for years and had the home office program there. You work closer than the CSS, so it was done well.
Yeah. Well, the drop-in center serves youth 16 to 24. So we do have many underage kids coming to the drop-in center for services because they're homeless. But we also are able to provide services for those 18 to 24-year-olds, specifically those ones transitioning out of the foster care system, because they're just lost. There's no supports for them, and oftentimes they end up at our drop-in center, and we connect them with rapid rehousing, which we do at the drop-in center, as well as a program that we call Bridges. It's a state-run program to provide financial assistance to those kids exiting out of the system. But we do see a lot of kids under the age of 18 at the drop-in center. And then I'm trying to remember, we work with CSS very closely, yes. And then the middle question was, what did you say again?
Question?
It was, we were partnering with somebody else again.
Continuum of care.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we work closely with the Continuum of Care, especially their youth advisory board. They actually do some of their meetings at our place too. So it's a really good connection and partnership.
Yeah, we're a member of the Continuum. So yeah, we go to all their meetings.
I want to ask, based on that 16-year-old benchmark, your relationship with law enforcement, and are you ever under pressure to try to reunite underage kids with their biological parents, or are you allowed to just, I mentioned there's plenty of reasons not to, but are you obligated under the law to try to do something because they're not of age to make decisions on their own?
Well, and Jess talked about how untrusting a lot of these kids are when they come to us, and if they get a feeling like we're going to make a referral to Children's Services, a lot of times they'll take off. So we're trying to establish that relationship with them. But we are very mindful of safe housing for them and what that means, because we do not want them out on the streets, even one night. And oftentimes, the circumstances are so convoluted with their parents. There probably was some abuse, neglect. Parents don't even know where they're at, don't care. And so, we're trying to figure all that out, as they walk in the door. And sometimes they don't want to tell us their situation. They won't even tell us how old they are. So oftentimes we're just trying to make that connection at first. But there is an obligation when they come to Safe Landing. We obviously have to call the parents within 24 hours and make parental contact and get permission for them to stay with us. But because SOS is not a residential program, they don't sleep there. We don't have that same obligation.
First of all, thank you for coming today. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to you. Learned a lot because I was not familiar with your organization. Could you tell us if there are some service projects that could benefit your organization that we could get involved in beyond financial obligations? I imagine you're feeding people, you're housing people. So what can we do as a service organization to help support your efforts?
I would say a couple opportunities, depending on the time of year. Sometimes landscaping at some of our facilities, because we do have a lot of all of our facilities are homes. Another opportunity could be meals, especially for street outreach services. Sometimes having a cooked meal would be an opportunity in that way. Other than that, it really depends on the season. Sometimes if we're looking for a specific item, for example, right now we're looking at school supplies for our kiddos, and there's a local organization that kind of is being a drop site for collecting those items. So that could be an option of sometimes, like especially as we're starting into winter time, like having boots and clothing and different items, so being a collection site or a space, that would be also another opportunity.
And we're coming off of a really profitable spring and early summer in terms of donations too. Like at our teen pregnancy shelter, at one point we had a need for diapers and formula. Well, now we have a ton of that because we put out the need, and so many people responded. But that's another ongoing need. I would assume somewhere in the fall we'll be ready for more diapers and more formula, and blankets, just items for the girls and their babies. Even small toys and things like that are very helpful. Because we need them.
First of all, thank you for coming. But you brought up the teen pregnancy, and I think I caught earlier that the house is only in Ohio and it only has room for 5. Mm-hmm. So what would be the process or the plan, or is there a plan in place to expand that or open more houses throughout Ohio?
Yeah, this is my opinion, just so you know. But when we first, actually Summit County Children's Services asked us to do this because they had girls coming into foster care that were pregnant, and foster parents did not want to deal with a baby. They just wanted a teenager. And we did a little research. We actually went to visit a teen pregnancy shelter in Pennsylvania. And one of the things we heard was this is a very, very difficult population. These girls are very oppositional. If they don't like the way they're being treated, they don't want to follow the rules, they'll grab their baby and leave. And it makes that's a big problem. That's scary, for the girl and her baby and for us. And we've kind of seen that here at the Highlands. We haven't had girls pick up their babies and leave, but they're a very strong-willed group. And oftentimes girls will call and say, I'm homeless, I'm pregnant, I need a place to stay. So we pick them up, we bring them up to the Highlands. They hear about the rules that we have and they say, no thanks. We don't want to follow the rules. They want to be able to come and go as they please. They want to be able to take their baby and go to the mall or, go to the movies or go hang out with their friends. And obviously that's not what we're all about. We're trying to work with them on developing a plan for their future and a healthy life for them and their babies. So there are times when we've been full, five girls, 5 babies, and other times when we dip down, like today, 3 girls and 3 babies. But that doesn't mean we're not getting referrals. And I also think that the system has changed a little bit. Child welfare doesn't refer as many of those kids as they did back when they asked us to open this program. They're placing those pregnant girls with what they call kinship homes, which is like a family friend, a church friend, somebody that they know from school that's willing to take them in and take care of them. And in one way, it's cheaper for child welfare. They don't have to pay a per diem like they do at the Highlands. But it has a permanency plan where those girls might be able to stay there. They could be their family there forever, So there's a lot of reasons for it. But we are, our long-term plan, if you were to ask me and our executive director, Joe Rizzo, is we want a transitional living apartment building for these girls because many of them turn 18 while they're with us. And they want their own apartment. And if you right now apply for AMHA housing, it's a 12 to 24 month wait. And so there's no place for them to stay. And we would love to have maybe a 6-unit, 8-unit apartment for these girls to transition to so that they can continue to work and finish up their schooling, parent their child. And we would continue to provide that counseling and case management that they need for as long as they need it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks you guys.
It was great. Thank you very much. Thanks for the work you're doing in the community and helping out young people. There's too many who need help, but thank you. Can one of you pull a raffle ticket today? You? Can you do us the honor of pulling a raffle ticket?
Okay, number is 219759. 219759.
Congratulations, Andrew. Just a reminder, our speaker next week is over at David Hall with one of his associates, so please come out and support David. And unless there's any other announcements, I will conclude the meeting. Thanks all.